Echoes in the ice. They say it's made of vibranium, that it absorbs all vibration, all impact, a perfect defense. They're wrong. I can feel every bullet, every blow, every single impact ringing through the metal and bone right back to 75 years ago. It doesn't absorb the hits. It remembers them. And so do I. My name is Steve Rogers, most of the time. Other times I'm a star-spangled symbol on a lunchbox. A story they tell their children to make them feel safe at night. A ghost, walking through a world that buried him with honors and then moved on without him. The shield is heavy. Not in my arm, I'm strong enough for that. The serum took care of the body. But it didn't do a thing for the soul. It's heavy in my heart. It's a circle. A promise with no end. When I was a kid in Brooklyn, I used to get into fights I couldn't win. I knew I couldn't win. But you don't stand down just because the odds are bad. You stand down when you're wrong. That was simple. The world was complicated, sure, but the lines were clear. There was a bully, and you stood in his way. Then I got the serum, the shield, the uniform. Suddenly, the kid from Brooklyn was supposed to be the answer to everything. An ideal. But I was still just the same skinny kid inside, just louder. Able to take the punches, able to throw them back harder. I remember the cold. That's the thing about the ice. It preserves. It doesn't heal. It just stops time. I went under a soldier, fighting a war I understood. A war against an enemy you could see. An evil so profound it didn't require a committee to define it. We were losing friends. We were scared. But we were sure. We were right. I woke up in a world of glass and steel. A world of whispers and algorithms. A world where the wars are fought in shadows, and the enemy might be the person giving you your orders. They told me we won, but walking through this new century, it doesn't always feel like it. It feels like we just traded one fight for 1,000 smaller ones, 1,000 invisible fronts, where right and wrong are just matters of perspective, of clearance levels. I walk through museums and see my own face staring back at me from behind glass. A relic. Captain America. The first Avenger. They show films of our missions, black and white footage of me and Bucky and Dum Dum and Gabe, the Howling Commandos. For everyone else, it's history. For me, it was last Tuesday. I can still smell the wet wool of our uniforms, the stale coffee in the briefing tent. I can still hear Bucky's laugh cutting through the drone of the bomber engines. He had this way of laughing, like he knew a secret the rest of the world wasn't in on yet. Now, that laugh is just an echo. An echo that the ice couldn't silence. They brought him back, not the man I knew. They took my friend, my brother, the last piece of my old life, and they twisted him into a weapon. They hollowed him out and filled him with orders and pain. And I had to fight him. I had to look into the eyes of the man who dragged me out of alleys my whole life and see nothing. A ghost staring back at my ghost. The world wanted me to put him down, to treat him like another mission objective. But how do you raise a shield against your own heart? How do you fight the only person left on Earth who knew you before you were a monument? It's the cruelest irony. I was created to be the perfect soldier, but the one battle that mattered most, the one for Bucky's soul, I wasn't sure I knew how to win it. I just knew I couldn't stop trying. And Peggy, I close my eyes and I can still see her. Standing there, the red dress, the sound of the band playing a song I'd never get to hear with her. I had a date. That's what I held on to on the ice. A single, simple promise. A dance. A lifetime that was waiting for me just on the other side of the mission. When I woke up, she had lived that life without me. I visited her when she was old. Her mind, it would drift. Sometimes she'd look at me and see the young soldier she said goodbye to. And for a moment the 70 years would vanish. But then her eyes would clear, and she'd see me as I am now, a man who hasn't aged a day, and she would remember that I was a memory. Her memory. It was a comfort and a curse. I was so grateful to see her, to hear her voice. But I was also a reminder of what she had lost. A living photograph from a life she had to leave behind. I outlived my own eulogy. I attended the funeral of the love of my life. The shield can't block that. There's a loneliness to it all that I don't think anyone can understand. Tony came close, I think. For all his noise and his armor, he understood burdens. He built his armor to protect himself from the world. My burden was given to me, and it puts me right in the center of it. He saw the future, all the time, all the threats coming. I'm always looking back, trying to measure the present against a past that gets further away every day. We were two sides of the same coin, both trying to do the right thing, just our compasses were calibrated in different eras. His pointed to innovation, to staying ahead of the threat. Mine just points north, to a fixed ideal. The problem is, I'm not so sure this world remembers which way north is. They asked me to lead, to make the hard calls. But the calls have gotten so much harder. In the war, the call was to save as many people as you could. Now, it's about acceptable losses. It's about collateral damage. It's about choosing between two bad options and hoping you can live with the consequences. I fought against the Registration Act. I fought against my own government, against my friends, because I saw where it was going. I saw them trading freedom for a feeling of security. And I know better than anyone, that freedom is fragile. It's not a monument you build and then admire. It's a garden you have to tend to every single day. And sometimes, the weeds look a lot like the people in charge. So what am I fighting for? I used to think it was for America, for the flag. But I've seen that flag draped over the caskets of good soldiers who were following bad orders. I've seen it used as a shield by men who betray every value it's supposed to stand for. The flag is just a piece of cloth. America is a conversation, an argument, an idea that's always striving to be better than it is. And sometimes, the most patriotic thing you can do is to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. I'm tired. I'm so tired. The kind of tired that sleep can't fix. It's a weariness in the bones, a fatigue of the spirit. Every time I think the fight is over, a new one begins. We stop an alien invasion, and a corruption grows from within. We cut off one head of Hydra, and two more grow back. It's endless. And with every battle, we lose a little more. We lose friends. We lose innocence. We lose a piece of the world we're fighting to save. I'm a soldier. I was made for the fight. But I was never meant to fight forever. I was just a kid from Brooklyn who wanted the bullies to stop. And now the bullies have helicarriers and armies and ideologies that you can't just punch in the jaw. But then I see it. In the middle of the chaos and the smoke and the fire, I see people. I see a firefighter pulling a child from the rubble. I see a doctor who refuses to leave her patients. I see a stranger shielding another stranger with their own body. I see people helping each other. And I remember what Dr. Erskine told me the night before I became this. He said, whatever happens, stay who you are. Not a perfect soldier, but a good man. That's what this has all been about. The serum, the shield. They don't make you a hero. They just amplify what's already there. Good becomes great. Bad becomes worse. The star on this shield, it isn't a government. It isn't a piece of land. It's a promise. The promise of a good person. The promise that someone, somewhere, will stand up for the little guy. That someone will stand between the weak and the ones who would prey upon them. It's not about winning every fight. It's about showing up for them. It's about being the one who runs toward the screaming when everyone else is running away. The ice didn't just preserve me. It turned me into a touchstone. A living reminder of a time when we believed we could be better. Maybe that's my real purpose. Not to win the war, but to remind everyone what we're fighting for. To be the compass, even when the world is spinning. My needle has to hold true. Because if Captain America can waver, then what hope is there for anyone else? That's the real weight. The weight of hope. So I keep the echoes. I let them ring. The memory of Bucky's laugh, of Peggy's smile, of the boys in the commando singing off-key in a transport truck. I carry them with me. They're not ghosts haunting me. They're my armor. They're the proof that there was a world worth fighting for then and a world worth fighting for now. The world has changed. The fight has changed. But the reason for fighting, that hasn't changed at all. It's still about standing up, about doing the right thing, especially when it's hard. It's still about planting your feet, looking the bully in the eye and saying, "No, you move." My name is Steve Rogers. I'm a soldier, and the war isn't over, so I pick up the shield. It's heavy, but it's a good weight. It's the weight of a promise, and I was always taught to keep my promises. I pick it up, and I get back to work.